Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the XrmToolCast. In this episode, Jonas and I speak with brand new baby MVP Matt Collins-Jones as he talks through tools for your Power Automate Flow Woes. Jonas and I also get into a rant on logical versus schema names, and Jonas shares his desire for a tool that understands his hardships and gives him what he needs. We end the episode by defining what it means to be a nerd or a geek. So no matter what camp you think you may be in, sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the XrmToolCast with me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and Jonas, tree hugger, Dataverse rap. How you doing, Jonas?
I'm good.
Maybe it should have been
here like
maybe it should have been Dataverse tree hugger. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Dataverse tree hugger. Yeah, it's like environmental friendly Dataverse something, or well,
More of just being totally sold out for the Dataverse naming conventions.
Right. So not tree hugger in the sense of saving the trees, but I'm embracing the Dataverse thingy. Well,
Someone showing that effort and that desire for the trees, but yet for Dataverse.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a Dataverse hugger.
Yes.
Sure, whatever.
Sure.
No, but I'm okay. Yes, there have been some name changes. Yes, I might have opinions. I'm more of the attitude. Okay, it is what it is. It doesn't affect my daily job and what I actually do. So keep on playing, you marketing people.
Yeah, well, it sounded like you were going to change some names of some tools. Like, you better hold off. I mean, all that happened last time you did that. So.
Yeah, my my tool was referencing a platform that never was, but yeah. So I think I'll just stay put for a while.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad I talked you off that ledge. So
Yes.
we'll stay put. So everything looks a lot better than last time. I did see there was a wiki page for Dataverse, but a wiki page is not a trademark make. So I'm a little more confident this will stick around. So, but yeah, we'll see. But that's not the topic of our episode today. We have brought in our guest, Matt Collins-Jones. Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on. So why don't you give a quick introduction, Matt, about yourself, how you came into this world, and then we'll kind of get into what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, so I'm Matt Collins-Jones. People also know me as MCJ quite a lot these days since I changed my name, or the D365 Geek. I'm based out of Manchester in the UK, so another Brit on this podcast. It seems you have quite a number of us, people with great accents, I guess. I'm a solution architect in D365 and Power Platform for a company called TSG in the UK, predominantly doing Dataverse stuff, so building in either first-party applications or Dataverse. And for the last couple of years, my focus has been on Power Automate, previously Microsoft Flow. So I've been doing quite a lot of that in the last couple of years. I have a YouTube channel that has quite a number of videos on Power Automate, and I've kind of thrown all my eggs in that Power Automate basket. Earlier this month, I was lucky enough to be awarded the Microsoft MVP for business applications. So I'm a newly minted MVP, and I'll try and
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm now trying to learn from some people with more experience than I on how to do this thing. So
that's pretty much everybody.
Yeah. So you're
all trying to learn from everybody else.
Brand new MVP. If we were recording this podcast live in the same room, you would be the one buying the beer.
Would I? Okay.
Yes, it's always the rookiest MVP doing that.
Rookiest.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, how much can you guys drink? Is probably a good question.
Enough.
Depends who you're talking to. I don't drink at all, so you can buy mine anytime. It's free, but
yeah, if I'm in a room with Chris Huntingford, I know I do not have a bank balance big enough to keep up with that man.
No, I don't think that would be human, actually. Yeah. He's on another level. Excellent guy, by the way, should say. Not just talking about his drinking habits.
No, fantastic, and great source of knowledge as well.
Absolutely, yes. Totally.
Yes.
He actually came over to the very first Sweden Power Platform community get-together last year. So brought him over from England as a special celebrity guest here. Yep.
All right. So we talked about Chris. Now let's go back to Power Automate here. So Power Automate, some people will still call it Flow every single day, although Flow still exists within Power Automate. Are you going to focus more on Flow today, Matt, or are you looking more towards Flow or some of the other items within Power Automate?
So talking more about Power Automate and the current CDS connector, it's not been rebranded yet.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk about, I was having a discussion with someone about how hard it is to build flows in Dataverse, because it's not super straightforward. And I use quite a number of Xrm Toolbox tools, as well as Chromium add-ins, to allow me to effectively build a flow. Because I think that if you aren't using these tools, it's probably taking you 3 to 4 times longer than if you are using them. And I kind of realized the other day that I was closing down the Xrm Toolbox, and I realized I had like 5 or 6 different tabs open, all with different tools, or like multiple tabs for the same tool. And I don't understand how people can build these things without that tool set, that toolbox. So I kind of thought it'd be a really good idea to kind of talk through some of those things, some tips and tricks I've learned over the last couple of years of using them, and hopefully enlighten some listeners.
You're probably going to enlighten me, because I think I've got maybe 3 flows that are like moderately complicated, and they weren't all that fun to do, but I was teaching somebody that was not a developer, a hard code dev. Okay, let's go through and do these things. And so that was definitely the tool to be using. And I was like, all right, this should work. And so hand behind the mask hand behind the curtain as I go through and edit a few things, or run a few tools to get the actual magic strings I needed to use. So hopefully you can enlighten me in some things as well. So what's the tool you want to get started on? What's your go-to tool? What do you have open all the time?
So I always start with the Fetch XML builder. And this isn't just because I'm on the podcast with Jonas. Although
Sure.
Everyone
whatever you
says
say,
that.
Big fan. But no, it's the go-to tool, and it's there for several reasons. Firstly, especially if you're using the Common Data Service Current Environment Connector, the trigger for that, or one of the triggers for that, doesn't support Fetch XML triggers. It only supports OData style queries for your triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So what I tend to do is jump straight into the Fetch XML builder, start building up some queries, start building up the filtering conditions. And then there is a fantastic, I'd say little known. I'd like it to be more well known, because not a lot of people know about it. But there's an option to view the Power Automate parameters. So a little box pops out, and it converts your Fetch XML query to OData. I'm not a developer, and I appreciate that Power Automate is aimed at those low-code, no-code developers, citizen developers and end users, because Steven Siciliano said automation should be for everyone, and I agree. But it's not super straightforward. So the first thing I do when I'm triggering a flow is I want to get those triggering conditions right. So I only want it to trigger when certain fields are changed, and I only want it to trigger under certain conditions. And I don't know, I've not learned OData queries. So the first thing I do is I go and create that query, get those parameters from the Fetch XML builder, so that I know that the flow is going to trigger under the right circumstances.
Right. So the filter that you would otherwise use, I mean, like in a list records task, you can use the filter query there to actually sort of filter out if the flow should trigger at all.
In the trigger for it.
Yeah, right.
So when a record's created, updated, or deleted.
Has that been changed over time? Because I think when it was introduced, it was some other kind of syntax there that you should put in, or has it always been this OData format of the filters?
No, you're right. So previously we didn't have a trigger in the UI in conventional sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hit the 3 dots and it's either not peak code, it's settings, and you'd have the back end where it would talk about multiple concurrencies and things like that, and triggers. And
Right.
one of the things was a trigger, so you could write it as I think it's workflow definition language, so the kind of language that Azure.
Oh, that language.
Yeah, so you could build your trigger based on that. But then in subsequent versions, they kind of realized, it's not a good idea to hide how you're going to trigger a flow behind another menu. You probably want it right up there, so you're triggering it in the right place and you're seeing it in the right place. So yeah, I think that was changed. And again, with the, we're on the third iteration of the CDS trigger now. So it was the Dynamics trigger, which is now deprecated. It was the current, it was the CDS trigger that is soon to be deprecated, maybe.
Yeah.
And now we have the current environment trigger, which gives us, and again, there's disparity between the two as well. There's the old trigger that people were using that. Going to the new trigger, it's like, well, this is all different, and you do things differently with these actions and everything else. So there is a little learning curve in terms of that.
Do you know how that is affecting? I mean, if you have a filter and this filter realizes we shouldn't trigger now, does it count as sort of the flow runs if you have any API limits or whatever it's called there?
No, so that's the beauty of it. So unlike what we'd usually do with traditional workflows, where we trigger something and then we do a check condition first. Tip from the great Gus Gonzalez there is every time you trigger a workflow, you have that check condition first to make sure that it passes that first check. And if it doesn't, we stop it there. Power Automate does it differently. It basically checks to see whether that parameter is true before triggering. So I'm guessing somewhere in the background, it's kind of logging all these things, and then if it hits something that it thinks is true, it'll go and call the flow. But I'm not 100% on that.
All right.
But it doesn't run the flow.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a really good idea anyway to make sure if you're just triggering on update of record, make sure you add the trigger filter there as well to make sure that the change was something that you're interested in, or the change was on fields you're interested in, and so on.
Yeah, and you can do both as well. So you can trigger it based on a certain field changing, but then checking another field equals something else or has data or something. So
yeah.
We've mentioned a few things that maybe we may have a listener that came in that doesn't have that CDS Dataverse background. We mentioned Fetch XML, and we mentioned OData, which if you don't have a technical background, you don't know what either of those things are. So just as a quick rundown for our listeners here, the Fetch XML is XML based way of querying Dataverse, CDS, CRM, XRM, whatever we want to call it these days. But we'll stick with Dataverse for today. And that's been around since 2011, or maybe prior to 2011. I think 2011 is when introduced. Was it 2011?
Yeah, I think it was in CRM4 as well, and probably.
Okay.
I came into this business in CRM 4.0.
It's been around for over a decade, which is an eternity in technical speak. And it was good for what it was designed for. OData, on the other hand, is an open source standard. Oh, the Fetch XML is only for Dataverse. Like that's the only reason it was created. That's the only thing that uses it. OData, on the other hand, is something that's designed really around browser-based stuff or URL-based stuff, where everything's in a friendly text-based URL, basically, you can go hit and load up that data. And so that's completely different in the way it's formatted, completely different in the way it works, completely different in about everything possible with it. So just because you know one doesn't mean you know the other. But the beauty about Fetch XML Builder that Matt pointed out is it has a very nice WYSIWYG interface to get what you want. Normally, you used to do only Fetch XML with it, but Jonas or one of his minions that was happy enough to give him a pull request, I'm not sure which nowadays, but developed a way to say, hey, take whatever that Fetch XML is and convert it into the OData that is used by Dataverse, which is the same OData that you use for the connector when you're in Flow. So just as a step back, big picture, if someone's coming in and doesn't have that background. So
great.
So triggering is kind of the first bit of it. But then once you're triggering something, one of the most common requests is to then go off and get a bunch of records. And in this instance, Fetch XML is compatible with the list records action. So there is a section that's been added in. It wasn't there originally, but it's been added in for Fetch XML. So again, I can build my queries in the Fetch XML builder. I can add the attributes that I want to it, or columns. Are the attributes in Fetch XML? Columns in Dataverse? I don't know.
Everything is columns now.
Everything's columns now. So I can build my attributes. I can, again, put in my filtering conditions. So I'm only bringing back the records that I want.
The rows.
Again, the rows. Sorry.
Yes.
Rows that I want.
We need a tip jar. Each time you use the wrong word, we'll just add to the jar. We'll be millionaires for the end of the show.
I think I just need post-its all around my monitors for, like, it's Dataverse, it's not CDS, but
Won't work.
Yeah, won't work. But yeah, for listing rows back, and you only want to bring back certain rows as well. So again, the filtering conditions are great in that, so that we're only bringing back a certain number of things. And again, and this is kind of a point of contention between me and my boss at the moment, which is I prefer using a fetch XML query in a list records action. He prefers converting it to OData. And I don't know what's best, really. From my background, I build queries using advanced find previously, so I've understood fetch XML because I've used it in a lot of other programs for imports and things like that. So importing software would understand fetch XML for migrating databases and stuff. So I'm very familiar with fetch XML, not very familiar with OData. So whenever I have a list records action, you can always tell if it was me that wrote it or my boss that wrote it, because mine will have fetch XML and his will have OData. And he's like, "So why did you use fetch XML?" I said,
"Because."
What? Yeah, because.
But it would be really interesting to know what actually happens under the hood there. I mean, is the OData converted to fetch XML or the other way around, or is it going straight to SQL from both of them? I would assume, I mean, given the place we are in, where Dataverse is and the history of the platform, that everything is being executed as fetch XML anyway. So probably I would say you win there. Your method would be more performant, but I have no idea.
Oh, I care far less. I care far less about the performance of it to see what's easier for you personally to debug or to analyze and look at. So,
yeah.
Which I would say fetch XML would be nice, only that it formats well. I guess if you want to reformat it, I mean, you can just copy paste and format it in the fetch XML builder or anything XML based, right?
Yeah, you can grab just the plain text fetch XML and paste it in the flow.
Yeah, so I mean that would be a little bit nicer, I think, rather than just a long string. But at the same point in time, there's a lot more other stuff with fetch XML that isn't doing anything besides adding context to stuff that's not really, it's extra fluff that goes on there too. So I see advantages of both. I'm not trying to, I don't know which way I'd suggest. I'd say whatever is most comfortable for that person, they should use that one. But yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's what you're used to reading. If you want to sort of check your flows and see what's happening, if you're used to fetch XML, use that. If you're used to OData, come from that side, do that.
Exactly. And for me, fetch XML is a lot easier for me to read. It's also a lot easier for me to update. As you say, if you have a massive text string of all the in the entire filter, whereas you have nice tags and blocks in fetch XML, I go, oh, I just need to change this field because it's the wrong field. I can just double click and change it there, rather than scrolling through the entire string to go, right, where is it? And did I hit a bracket or a comma? So that's for me. So that's a great use case. The other tool that I use, which kind of dovetails into Fetch XML Builder a little bit, and this isn't a critique of the Fetch XML Builder more than it is a observation. So in the Fetch XML Builder, you can select attributes, which is fantastic because you can see the display name or logical name, as well as the schema name, and you can see them. So if you're looking at a form of your system, you can go, oh, this is the field that they've talked about because we went through it. I can pick that field and I can put that onto Fetch XML Builder to build my query. But the Fetch XML Builder also, when you are doing filtering attributes, shows you the schema name and not the field name. So the tool that I use at the same time as the Fetch XML Builder is Level Up for Chrome, or for Chromium on Edge, by Natraj, who was on the show as well. Because there's a fantastic tool in it for show logical names. So you click on it's a little add-in for Chrome. You launch it, and there's a button that says Show Logical Names, and what it'll do is it'll display the logical names on the form that you're looking at, and it'll tell you the schema name. So I can use that at the same time as the Fetch XML builder to basically figure out what the name of the field is that they want this to trigger on, or that I need the data back for, and then I can add that into the filtering expression in the Fetch XML builder.
All right, so I just have to ask you, did you ever press Control F in Fetch XML Builder?
I didn't. I have not.
It will flip all the schema names to display names or friendly names. That's hence the F. So there's something under the options where you can check it and uncheck it, but there's a shortcut, just Control F, and it will flip back and forth in the query side of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I see, and this was worth it just for that. Just to learn.
So your tips to the audience here for using tools with flow.
Now you can stop being friends with Natraj.
Well, there are other reasons to be friends with Natraj. So
Yes, there are.
another great use case for it is the option set viewer. So again, the Fetch XML is fantastic when you're doing the filtering queries. You can see the labels as well as see the values. But sometimes if you just try to update something quickly, or when you're trying to set something or get something, that option set viewer where you can see the label, the name, and the value is invaluable. Just I don't, if I don't have the Fetch XML builder open, I don't know what I'm doing. But if I can use that, I can quickly just go in and go, right, okay, it's actually this option set value that I need, not the one that was programmed to originally. Or I want to add another one in and just want to know what that value is behind the scenes. Again, you can just click a couple of buttons and you get to those values. Now you could do all this by being, in a solution and then hoping that the solution has the option set that you want, or going to the form and then switching to classic to try and get to the data behind it. But all these things are just so many clicks. Why would you do that when you have all these fantastic tools at your fingertips, essentially?
This is probably the case where I would most often use the metadata browser in XRM Toolbox again, because there I have all the metadata information just at my fingertips, and a lot more information than what you can find in the solutions or in the forms and so on. So that would be my go-to method to quickly find all the details of an attribute or an option set and so on.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads me on to my third tool, which is the metadata browser.
Oh, what a segue.
What a segue. It's almost like
well done. Well played.
Thank you.
So the metadata browser, and this is actually a tip from your colleague, Jonas, Sarah Lagerquist.
We're going to talk about her on the show.
Yeah. Why can't we talk about her?
She's not kidding. She's on the show. We loved it. It was awesome.
So one of the and again, this is the complexities of CDS and the CDS actions compared to how you're used to do it. Setting lookups when you're creating or updating a record.
Right.
So the way you used to do it is you find the field and the GUID of what you're looking up, and you're done. In the current environment connector, the latest connector, it is entity set name brackets GUID close brackets. Found out recently you don't need a / at the start of it. I was always putting a / at the start of it. You don't need that. So the metadata browser is my go-to to basically find out the entity set name. Just because it's not the plural name, which I kind of came up against recently. I was like, why can't I figure this out? And it's because I was trying to use the plural name, which you would think is the entity set name, but it's slightly different. And it also doesn't really help if you've renamed an entity at some point as well, which was a CRM tip of the day today, which is when you rename entities, just don't. Rename tables, just don't. Because you'll never be able to find it, and then you'll be doing two things. Because the way Flow will interpret it is it'll show you the display name. So you search for the display name that you want, but then the entity set name is the old name.
Yeah, because the schema name never changes.
Yeah.
and the entity set is part of one of the schema names defined there. But then, I mean, there's a lot of things to keep in mind here. There's also the difference between schema names and logical names, which no one ever really understood why Microsoft made it that way. Why have two just because we can confuse you? Yes, they succeeded. Congratulations.
I don't know why they even need to show you the schema name. Why do they care? I mean,
the only place it's used, I guess, is in the OData context.
Everything else is logical name.
Other than that, I mean, in fetch XML, it's logical name, not schema name.
Yeah, and the only difference for those that aren't in this horribly developer-ish world that we live in is it's lowercase. That's it, right? I mean, it's just all lowercase for logical. Schema name is whatever you typed in. You could have made it all lowercase, and now the schema name and the logical name are the same, or you could have not. So it does get you do see it when you're doing generating of code. So I'm assuming your late bound constants takes advantage of the same thing where it uses the schema name to at least get some casing involved with it. And mine does as well. So I actually am very, I do want people to use some Camel casing when they're defining schema names. But yeah, outside of that, I always want it to be logical name if I could help it. But no, we are not in that world. We are in the world where they decided to use schema name, where sometimes it's a capital, sometimes it's not. And then they made it worse at one point in time by actually trying to pluralize it as well, which was even worse because sometimes they did it right and sometimes they did it wrong. Like I'm sure they didn't. Maybe they did deer as deer rather than deers. I don't know. I mean, those stupid things in the English language. But yeah. So all right, soapbox. I'm getting off it. Thanks. All right. So we had the Fetch XML builder, level up, and metadata browser for helping it figure out values to put in there and all that kind of fun stuff. Any other tools, Matt? You're itching to talk about?
Yes, so I'm always a build first, document later kind of guy. I generally like to prototype and to build stuff because it kind of makes sense to me as I'm building it, rather than documenting stuff. Now, Microsoft did release the ability in Visio so that you could build a flow in Visio. So you can build out all the steps, and then you can push it to Power Automate, and it'll build the flow for you, which is fantastic.
Why? Tell me, why is that fantastic?
I was thinking the same thing. Like, is this?
And I want to write my C# in PowerPoint, and then no, I don't get it.
It's fantastic, I guess, from a customer standpoint. Like, you make your specification document, your requirements document, your solution architecture document, and you can data model and build that flow and show it in a visual way to a customer before it's built, and then you could push a button and it just goes and builds it. But I actually like it the other way around.
Push a button and it just works. That never happens.
No,
there's stuff they don't set quite right or something. That you can't tell me that works all the time.
So I've never used that because I'm a build first and document later kind of guy.
All right.
But it's
I'm a build first and never document type of guy. But
yeah,
one step ahead
I'm
of me.
I'm with Daryl.
So if you're a build first and never document sort of guy, and then someone says, I need some documentation, you don't want to build out that Visio. You don't want to do that. So Carl Cruxon recently released the Flow to Visio Builder. And I think he was on the show recently as well talking about it. And it's the ability to basically take a existing flow and it is click a button and you get the flow as it is with all the connectors, all the loops, all the branching in Visio. So you can just go build first, click a button, and then do it to the customer. Here you go. Here's your system. Here's what this is supposed to do, and this is everything all along the way, rather than the other way around.
So the UI of Flow is already kind of Visio-y, like Visio-ish. So what's the big advantage over just taking like a screenshot? Besides screenshots would be horrible if it's rather big and that kind of stuff. Like what other fun stuff is in there that I should be excited about?
So it gives you a visual representation and it gives you some details of the attributes inside of the steps as well. So for you to take a screenshot, you'd probably need to like zoom in, take a screenshot of the trigger with the triggering actions, and then go down and then look at what your like listing records of as well.
So the details are much more visible, you're saying?
Yes. And you can then just embed that Visio straight into a Word document and then when someone comes to that Word document, you can double click it and it'll open in Visio.
So does it even close the loop? If you have the Visio and then you do some changes there, then you push the magic Microsoft button and it will update and fix your flow?
It does not, but that's a great feature request for Carl. I think he's a bit bored in lockdown, so give him something to do.
I think it's kind of funny. I mean, they created Power Automate to be this visual UI, end user, almost friendly graphical stuff way to build your automation. And then was it like it wasn't UI enough, so let's build it in Visio and push it to this UI automation builder tool. I don't get it. I get Carl's tool.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you want to have customers always want this in a proper documentable format. But yeah. But you mentioned also that the actions and so on were clickable in Visio. What would that mean?
So in Carl's tool, you can see the attributes, so the column names and things that are inside of certain actions and steps. You can see them on the Visio itself. So unlike it just pulling out a block that says this is called apply to each 3, because someone's not renamed that, and then an action inside of it, you can actually see what that action inside of it is supposed to do with some of the columns and data that he's pulling out from Power Automate. Which is quite handy, especially if you're trying to document a solution end to end for someone, and you've built first and never document until it's too late.
Right.
I'm even thinking of some of the worst workflows I've ever seen inside of Dataverse that are like, it takes like forever to load. It's like you scroll 14 pages and you're like, I have no idea what that would be nice to be into a Visio type thing. I'm sure it'd be way easier to look at. So I'm sure in those big flows that actually makes things a lot nicer. So yeah, that is a good tool. Flow to Visio Builder by Carl Cookson, huh?
Yeah.
Cookie. All right. Awesome. What else you got?
That's my main 4. Those are the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis for all the things that I need to do. I would like to see some more tools for the XRM toolbox to try and help with things, but I think those 4 have kind of got a lot of things covered for me.
So what's your tool you wish was there, or you think should be there that's not there?
So I would kind of like a tool that works with that definition language a bit more. So you can edit the dynamic content coming back, and dynamic content in Flow is essentially writing a workflow definition language expression, and it's saying, hey, look at this thing and then go bring me back some data. And a lot of common things that I do is try and pull back maybe a single record, or in CDS you don't get things like option set names or option set labels. You get the values, but then as dynamic content, but then in the JSON that's returned to you, you do actually get the full formatted value of the label.
Right.
So I'd like a tool that could kind of examine that JSON that would be coming back to me and go, oh, you actually want this, and then click a button and it kind of does the query language for me, and then I can just plonk it into my steps that I'm using.
Okay, so instead of having to do a parse JSON and run it once and get the sample and use that to generate the schema, and then you get sort of a typed JSON object in your flow, so you can access that option set label or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You would want to sort of just give me the thing that I really want. I don't want to have to parse the JSON. I don't want to instantiate an object behind the scenes. Just want to sort of write that sort of the flow syntax, whatever you call it, workflow something language, and to like the results at bracket 0, because it's the first record always dot body dot da 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 and so on.
Yeah, because although I'm all right at doing it, it's kind of a lot of time I go and refer back to my own body of work, my own videos and things of like, okay, so I need its outputs, then it's open brackets, then it's the name of the action all lowercase, all underscored, because we don't like spaces, and then it's question mark, and it's open square brackets, and then it's this, and then it's a question mark at the end because it may be null, and it may not be null, and then it's the label name, and it kind of seems like there's an easier way to kind of get that without me having to run the flow, get the JSON, find the thing, run it again, see if it works, and then do it all.
And I mean, writing those formulas would be okay if you had some intelligence, but you're just writing in blind now and looking at previous samples or whatever, taking your best shots.
Yeah, and it's usually one of those where I think I've got it right, but I would kind of like something that would maybe, be able to, get that JSON back for me first, understand my hardships, and go, hey, what do you want? Do you want the label? Do you want just the first value, because you don't want a loop for this? Do you want this? Do you want that? And just give me back that thing that I need.
I want a tool too that understands my hardships and gives me what I need.
That would be a nice tool, wouldn't it? That'd be a nice tool. That's what AI is for, right? It's supposed to do that for you.
Right.
I know I'm this close to being like, there's got to be a way for AI to be looking at what I'm doing and just go, oh, you're doing this. I'll finish it for you. Like, one of these days, I'm going to have a LinkedIn conversation with somebody where I just use the suggested responses and see how long can I go without actually typing anything and just using one of the 3 responses they give. So Matt, if I understand that correctly in your tool, going back to that, or your wish that existed tool, that's you've got your query already created. It's going to bring back some JSON, and then you're trying to go get the nth, the first item in the list and get its value and get the label for the value. You're trying to go and traverse the JSON basically with your dot notation, and you want it to validate it for you or to give you IntelliSense for you, which right now you don't have in Flow.
Just give me the parameter that I need rather than me having to write it out myself and hoping that I get it right.
It's like somebody on the Canvas app team needs to kind of switch over to the Flow team and just give that to them. Like, they've already solved that problem there.
Absolutely.
Also, like there's some things I do quite a lot that are not super straightforward, and kind of reusing components would be useful as well. So though you have like copy and paste, one of the complexities is like around environment variables in Flow. So environment variables in Dataverse are stored as a record, but it's stored as a record potentially twice. It's so when you query it, you want to check to see your current record value and potentially, if that one's null, the default one. So you have to write a query to get that, to then use that environment variable. So kind of like the Canvas app code reuse, it'd be really useful to just have something that I could just go deploy and create a flow that gets an environment variable, and I'll go and configure which variable it needs to look at later. But I'd just like it to just go create that flow as like a child flow that I can call at any point and bring that into my main flow to then use that environment variable later on.
I mean, in that case, I just think Microsoft has to release an action that is get environment variable value.
Be useful.
I mean, they're betting on environment variable, so we shouldn't work too hard to do that for them. It has to be in the connector.
Says the man that built a tool to replace the tool that's already in the out of the box webpage.
Yes. Just saying. Okay, so perhaps a final question, but when it comes to troubleshooting and debugging your flows, are there any tools, any methods? I mean, a tool may be an approach, a method as well, even if it's not something you install and run. So how do you approach troubleshooting and debugging your flows?
So I'd like it to be better in Power Automate itself. You get a nice red banner across the top when there's something wrong in your flow, which is usually a lot of text, and it's not very nice. Microsoft did for a little while introduce a flyout that would give you your inputs and your outputs of certain steps. So it would allow you to try to check all the data that's coming back. So later on, it would be easier for you to figure out what's gone wrong, as in, I queried this part, it had a null value. The part after it requires a value. Wasn't expecting it to be null. That's my troubleshooting step.
Yeah.
But recently that was taken away, and I don't know why. So I kind of like that to come back because that was quite useful, and it gives you a bit more. The problem with Power Automate is you don't have a lot of real estate.
No.
You have a whole screen, but they give you everything in really small boxes or really small banners across the top. It'd be really nice if things were like a little bit bigger or, responsive. So it's
Okay.
kind of hard to kind of troubleshoot certain aspects, and you do the latest updates have given us AI based feedback in terms of what's going wrong in your flow, which are links to forums and potentially videos and things like that. But I'd just like something that would tell me a bit more information. You kind of get a little box that pops out and says there was a problem at line 2 of your query here, and it gives you all right information. But sometimes it may be better to actually show you the whole inputs and outputs, and then give you an error message as well.
Yeah, sounds good. It's is there a way to see, like on a step in a flow? Is there a way to see which subsequent steps are depending on this? So I know if I remove this, what will break?
No, but that would be really useful.
Yeah, and I'm thinking Carl's tool cannot be too far from that.
No,
I mean, since he's investigating all the attributes and properties and stuff of all the actions, having this, okay, what's dependent on this in a like first child level and the grandchild children and so on. That would be, I think that would be good, especially if
yeah.
your flows are growing big.
Because as soon as you remove that dependent step, it will tell you that there are other steps dependent on it, but it
Yeah.
won't tell you what they are. And then when you remove it, just that link to that step just gets removed.
Yeah.
So you then have to go rebuild everything.
Oh, right. Yeah. So if my third step refers to my first step and I remove the first step, it will just blank out the line where that property or dynamic value was used and so on.
Yeah.
Oh, so and there's no undo, or is there no?
No, and if you've written a query to do something, including that first step, that whole query gets wiped. So it's not just the dynamic output from something; it's that whole that whole like if statement that you've written. That's like 4 if statements down. It just the whole thing goes, and you just have to do it again.
So getting citizens to start building these things, they're not very kind to the citizens.
So my 2 cents in this, when people ask me about Power Automate, they go, well, Power Automate's the successor to the classic workflows. So therefore, because I know classic workflows, I can do Power Automate. Not so much. It is a successor in terms of like Canvas apps are the successor in a sense to a model-driven form, because you have the pixel perfect stuff and it's low code, but it's still, you need to write code to make it do something. And it's the same with Power Automate. You need to know developer-esque things like loops and arrays and certain API queries and OData queries to be able to build a flow that you could potentially you could have built with a workflow, but Power Automate gives you so much more than what you got with the workflow engine, and that's the difference. Is that it's not straight one-to-one. It is a big step up, and you need to learn and understand it a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's my soapbox. I'll get off.
All right, you have your soapbox. So more I'm thinking about it, I think we need another level up type tool for Power Automate that is a browser extension that hijacks the JavaScript stuff on the form and touches it. The problem is there's no supported API for that I know of. So you would hijack, you may get it to work for 1 week, and the next week they could change it and all your stuff breaks. So that's not as much fun as it would sound to be. But anyway,
I think Netry is accepting the challenge here.
Oh, is he? All right,
yes.
Cool.
Let's vote.
3 days, 1. Or none.
All right. So, Matt, brand new MVP. You've mentioned a couple great tools. Obviously, you highlighted Jonas's. I don't know why. Apparently, it's fairly
Me neither.
helpful for what you're talking about. Sure. Anything else you want to mention tool wise before we get into how people reach out to you?
No. I love all these tools. They are extremely useful, and I highly recommend people check them out. Even Jonas's tool.
Fine, even Jonas's tool. I'll let this slide. So, how do you mentioned a couple names you go by online? MCJ, and what was the other one you mentioned?
D365 Geek. That's my Twitter handle.
Geek.
Yeah.
Okay.
So D365 Geek on Twitter. My LinkedIn, you can find me at Matt Collins Jones. My YouTube is youtube.com/Matt Collins Jones. My website is d365geek.co.uk. And if you are a podcast fan, as I'm a fan of this podcast, you can catch my podcast, which is the Power Chat Form. It's available at most good podcast outlets and on my website.
Most good ones. Most good ones.
I haven't gone on Amazon yet. That's the one.
Have a little more.
Waiting for.
Have a little more. Yeah, just say your favorite one. Just assume that it's people's favorite ones. That way you can.
So did you make sure to get the Dataverse Geek handle?
Do you know what? I should go and do that now.
Oh, too slow. I did.
No. I've had a definition of a difference between a geek and a nerd for a while. It's in my own personal definition. Do you understand the? Do you have a definition difference between a geek and a nerd, Matt? Any reason you didn't go with nerd rather than geek?
So for me, a geek is someone that likes geeky stuff. So your Star Wars, I'm wearing an X-Men and Attack on Titan t-shirts. That's anime and comic books together. A nerd is someone that kind of doesn't go out on the weekends, spends all time, working on calculus and Pythagorean theorems and stuff.
Oh, so you're saying a nerd focuses on useful things?
Yes. A geek focuses on looking as cool as he can with his comic book t-shirt on.
Awesome.
That's just my definition, though. So, what's your definition?
My definition was that a geek. It goes back and forth. I don't remember which one it was, but we'll just go with a geek. A geek is one that understands what they are geeking out about. Like, isn't necessarily normal, where a nerd doesn't. Like, so a nerd would be like, hey, why haven't you watched the last episode of Dragon Ball Z or something? Like, they'll be like you haven't done that? Like, that's weird. Like, I eat food. You should do this too. Like, where a Greek would understand, I really like this. It's my kind of thing, and it may not be your kind of thing. So I may have to explain a little bit to you. But you should probably like it, but you don't have to. Like, it's, but the nerd's like, no, everyone is going to be excited about the things that I'm excited. So yeah, so that's my definition, the difference between a geek and a nerd. One knows that what they're excited about is not normal.
Is it kind of like the Big Bang Theory? Nerd is Sheldon and geeks are the other cast.
That would probably be slightly acceptable, although I have, unfortunately, I think never watched a full episode of the Big Bang Theory. Like,
what?
I don't know.
We're the geeks now, and Daryl is.
Well, I think I did. I think I got the full Office in, and then I had kids, and I just stopped watching TV. I think so. I have to go back.
They stopped airing Big Bang Theory in Sweden a while back, so I've mostly watched it on flights lately. Well, apparently not lately, but last couple of years.
Yeah, it's on Netflix in the UK. I'm not sure about the rest of the world.
Yeah. No.
Interesting. All right. Well, Matt, you've listed how people can get a hold of you. You've listed some great tools, even if some of them are Jonas's tools. But no,
I'm sorry.
This is some great tools. And how people get a hold of it. So, Jonas, how can people get a hold of us?
Well, you go to fetchxml. Oh, sorry. Email us, cast@XrmToolbox.com, or find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, XrmToolCast.
Awesome. Matt, thanks for coming on. Thanks for spreading your newbie MVP wings and continuing to be a voice in the community for learning and for sharing knowledge. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye. This has been the XrmToolCast with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Labar. If you have any questions for Jonas or I, or suggestions for future episodes, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com or tweet to XrmToolCast.